The Berg River Canoe Marathon has over the years built an intimate relationship with the Winelands, Swartland West Coast and Paarl area. The 1998 race is the 37th time the Berg has been held and has attracted over 250 entries. It covers a total distance of 207.3 kilometres and the first day was cold and wet. Ahead lie 59.1 kilometres.
Today looks wonderful. This is true Berg weather in the greatest fashion of the old tough Bergs, but I don't know. After 6 hours today, it's not going to be that much fun at the end of the day.
Like the Comrades Marathon, the Berg has its own heroes, such as 6-time winner Robbie Herefeld and last year's champion Mike Cheeseman. The first stage takes the paddlers through Wellington and Herman before finishing at Zonquist Drift, and the leaders are expected at the finish in some time just inside 4 hours, providing the conditions are good. Expected cut-off time by the organisers is 6 hours 40. Less than 500 metres into the race and already the first portage tests the canoeists. Despite the rain, still many spectators. Last year's winner, Mike Cheeseman, immediately hits the front, determined to dictate from the start. Close on his tail, Angus McIntosh, Donny Malherbe and Jacques Taron. The rest of the field crowd the weir and find it difficult to negotiate the narrow spaces available, a number of them making an unwelcome acquaintance with the icy waters. This K1 goes to the 75th competitor past the Lady Lock Bridge, and the lead diamond of Cheeseman, McIntosh, Malherbe and Taron already a long way ahead of the chasing pack. A bit further north, we find some of the local workers trying to keep warm in the cold conditions. Approaching the low-level bridge at Skokie, Angus McIntosh, Mike Cheeseman and Jacques Taron. Although the river is carrying a lot of water, the bridge is still low enough to pass underneath, saving time which would have been lost had the canoeists needed to portage this section. Not far behind the chasing pack, which includes the Rainder brothers, Benny and Frickie. Well, not even the pouring rain prevents the locals from lending their support as the leaders enter the treacherous clay rapids. Hot on their tails, the second group with Frickie and Benny Reinders and Marius Maynard. The middle of the field now makes its way through the rapids. Rob Welsh capsizes and holds on to Barry Hayward's canoe. Hayward doesn't seem too pleased with his new passenger, does he? Another one of the competitors negotiates the rapids. First woman, German Antje Malherbe, comes through the rapids without a problem. Antje's the wife of Donny Malherbe, who's in contention for honours in the men's section. And what a view that is under the snow-capped mountains of the Boland. One of the seconds has picked up a problem.
We contested, I contested, and the caravan jackknifed and we just lost control.
Awaiting the paddlers are anxious spectators lining the bridge in the hope of catching a glimpse of their favourites, or indeed their loved ones. Minutes behind the leaders, the Rainder brothers still give chase. Here they receive valuable liquids from their second, who's also their father. Defending champion Mike Cheeseman is in control and leads after the first day.
It was a really good day for me. My main opposition, who I thought was Donny Malherbe, fell off the bunch really early on after the start and made it quite difficult for me in the first stages of the race because their bunch kept catching us, and I felt that it was better for me to actually watch him instead of Jacques Taron and keep the pace going.
Well, after a hard day, the blisters and weary muscles need treatment before the canoeists tackle day two. A glass of wine and a good night's sleep should do the trick. The morning on day two is cold, but the skies are clear, promising better conditions for all the competitors.
Ready for the day. Yeah.
strategy. Keep going. No strategy else than that.
Ja, you eat that to next cleaner, but also the reflected on.
Yeah, go.
Previous day's rain has meant that the water level has risen overnight, and the race will now be started by a police boat, meaning a staggered start with leading paddlers heading off first from Zonkersdrift. The second day covers 43.2 kilometres and is the shortest of the 4 stages. The first canoeists are expected to reach the finish at Bridgetown in around 2 3/4 hours, with an expected cut-off time of 4 hours and 50 minutes. This year's Berg River Canoe Marathon has attracted 10 father-son combinations. Not only the young are attracted to the Berg, but also the young at heart. The oldest competitor is 61 years of age, Charles Melk. On the other end of the scale, 15-year-old Neil Stubb is the youngest. Having to make time after the first day, Donnie Malherbe and Benny Reinders stick with the lead bunch as they approach Gouda Bridge. Donnie, one of the race favourites, experienced cramps in his forearms on the first day. The second group make their way towards the bridge. Up ahead, the leaders meander through the trees. Women's leader Ankie Malherbe makes her way through the trees and heads for Black Rock. Up ahead, Jacques Turon, Marius Maynard, Nick Aldert and Frikkie Reinders are already going through Black Rock. The police divers are on standby to rescue any paddlers who are in difficulty. They take their task very seriously and shout instructions to the canoeists, showing them the best routes. Second lady Jeanette Valder now makes her way through Black Rock. We'll be back after the break. 2 of the Berg River Marathon. Cheeseman, Malherbe, Benny Reinders and Angus McIntosh head towards the railway bridge. While the second group approaching the bridge, Frikkie Reinders leading the way. Jacques Turon, who was a contender on the first day, is content just to stay back with the second pack. Well, action on the river attracts the attention of train drivers who stop for a closer look. The full river makes the going easy for the canoeists. Well, the going becomes even easier after some local vocal support. Petrus Kraus, Chris Björkes and Billy Fraser-Jones make their way past the weir at Drieheuvels. The local farming community provide food, drinks and entertainment, as well as some of their own support.
Kom! Waar naar wij? Ja. Kijk. Portable red pico. You want some, sir?
Here's Donnie Malherbe reflecting on his performance at the end of day 2.
I think I've torn a muscle yesterday. I could feel it today and it was very, very uncomfortable. What happened yesterday was that the arm went into a spasm. So I couldn't control my hand or my paddle for the first hour and a half. It only warmed up after that. Unfortunately today that didn't happen, but I could feel that the muscle was very sore, especially in the swirly water.
The end of the second day on the Berg and the halfway mark has been reached.
Today was much harder than yesterday. And actually I found a junior to paddle with and he pulled me most of the way, so I'm very happy. It was a really nice race today.
Night sees a massive fire used to warm the bones and set the mood for what lies ahead as the moon sets and the paddlers are taken to their overnight stop at Misverstand Dam. Day 3, and again the sun greets the paddlers. A headlight, 55 kilometres, with a tough portage at the end of the dam. The expected finishing time for the third leg is 3.5 hours.
The weather is looking nice, and I like to paddle on a bit flatter water, with less swirlies and so on. But yeah, I hope I'm not too tired.
Once again, Cheeseman takes the lead with Mainhart, Malherbe and Graham Monteith close behind as they make their way towards the first portage. Cheeseman is first out of the water, followed by Benny Reinders and Donnie Malherbe. Jacques Turon follows, Donnie Malherbe and Benny Reinders at the point of re-entry. Cheeseman, now well in command, heads down the river, chased by the rest of the field. The television helicopter heads off downriver to catch the leaders downstream. The rest of the field have reached the portage, and the expected traffic jam comes to fruition. For these paddlers, the event is more about fun and competing rather than winning. They face their own personal battles, be it finishing or beating a personal best, but they're all champions in their own right. The scenic countryside should take away the strain having to paddle for around 4 hours. Cheeseman and Reinders have broken away and opened a 2-minute gap over the next canoeists. The two work together to maintain their momentum on the way to Moravia Weir. Trying to close the gap on the leaders, the second group work hard, supported by the locals who line up along the national road to Malmesbury. Eager spectators await the competitors on Moravia Weir. Malherbe, Reinders, Cheeseman and Tyrone come out of the water for the 60-metre portage. Tyrone mistimes his exit out of the canoe and lands face first in the water, but his speed over the land means he recovers quickly enough to still get into the water second. Hot in pursuit, Nick Albert enters the water again, trying to make up as much time as possible on the leaders. Ricky Reinders has mistimed his entry into the river and ends up capsizing. That could only be described as a semi-Eskimo roll. Well, minutes have passed and still Reinders can't get back into his boat. Oh, temper. Up ahead, the leaders have arrived at the time trial stop-off.
I think it should be good in the time trial because my pull seemed to be quite a lot stronger than the rest of the bunches for this first part of the day. So we'll just see how it goes.
The moment we saw that there's another two guys behind us, we waited for them to form a bunch of 4, and then we really worked hard from there to make up the gap. And apparently we made about 7 minutes on Angus. So I'm up to second place now, and then Jark is in third. But it's still going to be quite a hard time trial. I think I only have about 1 minute 50 seconds on Jark, which is, I would have liked a bit of a bigger cushion.
I think I've been very lucky today with the start. Got into the front bunch and didn't do a hell of a lot of work there. So I'm quite rested out for the time trial. Benny Reinders has got a lot to lose, so obviously he did a lot of work in the front bunch. So he pulled up ton out of the other guys. And I wouldn't say I didn't work, but I didn't do as much as he did, for instance.
I paddled very hard to catch the second bunch, and I caught them just before the weir, so I was very tense because it was a touch and go situation, and I just overstepped it a bit and put the boat too deep into the water, and it was, as I got into the river, it was just too deep to get into the boat from there, and I just couldn't get my balance, and then I just completely lost it.
Back on the Berg, and Mike Cheeseman starts the final leg of the day, the time trial.
I mean, I'm lying 6 now, and I was second this morning. What happened was we paddled across the dam, we had a portage, and we paddled for maybe 5 minutes, and I was putting the second bunch. And then there was 2 sort of gaps, and I took the one gap, and I just screwed it up, and I ended up swimming.
Donny Malherbe heads for Zoutkloof at the end of day 3. Mike Cheeseman has opened a 7-minute lead in the time trial over his nearest rival, Benny Reinders. The day ends on a high note as paddlers and television crew entertain themselves and clean up for the final day. After a hearty meal and a huge bonfire on a moonlit night, the camp awakes to an icy morning. Frost can be found on the grass and the canoes have got ice on them.
I'm in the lucky position that I don't have to do any chasing today or any work. If Donnie and Jock wants to attack me, they'll have to do the work. And I've also got Michael with me on the water, and he hasn't had to do any work as well. So the strategy will be just to finish with the guys today.
The main bunch of canoeists are off on the final leg of 50 kilometres. The back markers leave first, with the leaders an hour after them to ensure that all the canoeists finish at approximately the same time. Cheeseman's still out in front, and although he doesn't feel as strong as he was in 1997, there's no letting up. Pelicans taking flight from the oncoming paddlers, some of who decide to take an alternative route. Well, a long portage throws a spanner in the works for the paddlers as they struggle to find water for their canoes. The leaders believe they've found a good route, only to come undone further downriver. This allows Benny Reinders and Graham Monteith to get ahead, but Donnie Malherbe and Mike Cheeseman, along with Jacques Theron, are not far behind. Well, here are the rest of the paddlers who found a channel through the reeds and are making headway. The lead group, now down to 5, form the diamond, which enables them to row faster together, enjoying the scenery around them. Julie Aston and Barry Cotton make their way in the K2. The rest of the field now makes its way through the reeds, which winds its way to Feldriff on the west coast. Still in front, Mike Cheeseman, Benny Reinders, Jacques Theron and Donnie Malherbe, with the second group chasing hard. As the river comes closer to the sea, the speed at which it travels has become remarkably slower. The paddlers will now have to work that much harder to retain their speed. However, it's a welcome sight as the competitors now know that the finish is not far away and that they're in the final stretch. At the final portage, Jacques Theron shows off his leg speed, overtaking the rest of the leaders. Theron gets a clear entry into the river, while Cheeseman and Benny Reinders get in the way of one another. The leaders have regrouped, with Donnie Malherbe leading the diamond, Cheeseman on the right, Theron on the left, Reinders bringing up the rear. Not far out of Feldriff now, leading the second group are Nick Aldert and Graham Monteith. After almost 2.5 hours, the end is in sight. As usual, the NSRI are there to look after any mishaps. Leaders take it easy on their way into Feldriff. Well, a lone fisherman is the only one to witness the paddlers as they pass the fishing boats moored in the harbour. The finish line at Port Owen is in sight. And at the end of 207 kilometres, really, this is the climax. They've been paddling in total for somewhere in the region of 14.5 hours. And this is a welcome sight indeed. Donnie Malherbe and Benny Reinders putting in a final sprint for the line. The positions, of course, have already been decided. This sprint really being just for show. What a magnificent sight that is. Benny Reinders and Donnie Malherbe in a final sprint for the line, and it's Reinders who crosses the line first from Malherbe, but the positions have already been decided. Mike Cheeseman through in third, Jacques Theron in fourth, but Cheeseman it is who is the overall winner, thanks to his 7-minute lead yesterday. 14 hours, 25 minutes, 29 seconds his overall time.
I think the last few days have started taking their toll. I had 3 very good days to begin with, and you're bound to have a bad day at least once. I'm just fortunate that I could hang in there.
Actually, I had a bit of an epic. I fell out about 5 minutes off the start, had a long swim, and then I didn't see anybody, and I didn't have anybody to paddle with. I caught my first bunch after about 2 hours, so I was quite flat, and I'm very grateful to the guys who pulled me in the last hour.
There's time now to rest before preparation starts for the 1999 Berg River Canoe Marathon.